Drive a right-winger crazy. Help build the home of progressives by becoming a TYT member. Click the link in the description box below.
This story is about Steve King, the congressman from Iowa, who was holding a town hall, notoriously white supremacist retweeting. Steve King was holding a town hall, and one of his constituents came to that town hall and asked a question, and it made Steve King a little upset. Let's take a look.
As I'm sure all of us have already heard, this Saturday there was a shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh that tragically left 11 people dead. And the terrorist who committed this crime, he was quoted as saying, "They bring invaders in that kill our people. I can't sit back and watch our people get slaughtered." You, Steve King, have been quoted as saying, "We can't restore our civilization with other people's babies." You and the shooter both share an ideology that is
no, don't you do that.
Anti-immigration.
Do not associate me with that shooter. I knew you were an ambusher when you walked in the room, but there's no basis for that, and you get no question, and you get no answer. No, you're done. We don't play these games here in Iowa.
I was about to ask you what distinguishes
you're done. You crossed the line. It's not tolerable to accuse me to be associated with a guy that shot 11 people in Pittsburgh. I am a person who has stood with Israel from the beginning. The length of that nation is the length of my life. And I've been with them all along, and I will not answer your question. I'll not listen to another word from you.
If you don't have
and this is over if he keeps talking.
Then why did you travel to Austin?
This is over if we don't stop talking.
I think he's given his answer. I think that his answer is his answer. Yes,
but
please.
Do you identify as a white?
Sir,
stop it.
Sir,
why did you meet with the white supremacist?
Sir, that's it.
They're done, sir. I would ask whoever is guarding this door to lead this man out of the room.
Yeah. Sorry you couldn't.
Stop it. Nobody's going to listen to you. You're gone. We don't behave like that in this country. Go out and stand out front with a sign.
We don't behave like that in this country. We can't ask government officials a question in this country. I'm pretty sure we can, and it's pretty much guaranteed right of ours as American citizens. Not that you've ever read the Constitution, Steve King. So I'm amused by the stop. Don't let him talk. Don't let him talk. He's making good points. Don't let him talk. Right now, like somebody makes an absurd point, you easily answer the question and say that's absurd. Let me explain why it's absurd, right? And then you move on with your life. No, their reaction is get him out of the building. You got to get him out of the building. So is it a legitimate point? Totally legitimate. So the issue isn't Israel. I'll come back to Israel in a second. The shooter shot up a synagogue and killed all those folks. 11 people dead, 6 people injured. And yes, he went after Jews. But he went after Jews because he was led to believe that they were funding the caravan of what he viewed to be illegal immigrants, or actually refugees. Latinos that are trying to come into this country, which Steve King has spoken out against over and over and over again. But Steve King didn't just say, hey, listen, I'm worried about undocumented workers because it could suppress wages, and I think we have to have a reasonable immigration system. A lot of people believe that. That doesn't equate you to the shooter, right? No, he said we have to protect our civilization, and we can't do it with other people's babies. What do you mean other people's babies? He said that the dreamers who had come here as kids, some of them are good people, I think I've heard that somewhere before, but that others have cantaloupe calves because they dragged 75 pounds of marijuana, I love how specific that was, across the desert to get here. But they're the kids, what do you mean 75 pounds of marijuana? He demonizes immigrants over and over again. He recently retweeted a neo-Nazi, and then when they said, hey, it's okay, it's a neo-Nazi, so maybe you didn't know. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna apologize and I'm not gonna take it down. Now, wait a minute, a neo-Nazi, I'm pretty sure, is against Jews, not just against Latinos. Then he went on to endorse someone who is a fascist in Canada, running for mayor in Toronto. She went on the Daily Stormer, a Nazi podcast and website, and recited the 14 Nazi words that declares you as a fascist. And he said, she's got it right. Now you're gonna tell me you're pro-Jewish? No, and why are you theoretically for Israel? Because of end times and your insane religious fundamentalist views about how Israel needs to be supported so they can crush the Muslims and destroy the mosque so that Jesus come back and kill everyone in Israel, including the Jews. So yes, your ideology matches the shooters almost exactly.
You know, a guilty mind needs no accuser. The only thing that I will say is that the language that we've heard today on this show from these two men, him and Pence said, this is Georgia, which means the good old South. And he said, we don't do this in Iowa. And it's just this, they're territorial, they're losing it right now. They feel like they're losing control. And that's why I'm gonna go back to what we've been talking about all day. We gotta vote. We gotta get these people out of there. You gotta vote in your best interest. These are the people who are making the decisions for you.
So he's in essence saying, no, in Iowa, we don't tolerate questions. You bow your heads to government officials, and we don't question people like me. We question people that don't look like me.
That's right.
But I got bad news for you, Steve King. Good news for the rest of the country. J.D. Scholten's right behind you. So that's the guy running against him, and he's only down by 1 point now. It's basically a statistical tie. And that is why you're seeing the panic in Steve King's face and his reaction. Normally, he's done that white supremacist stuff and gotten away with it and been comfortable. Like, oh yeah, obviously, Mexicans have cantaloupe calves. Doesn't everybody know that, right? And our babies, not their babies, Latinos, blacks, Jews, Muslims. No, those are their babies, not our babies. Now, all of a sudden, come to find out, that doesn't play well in Iowa, and he might lose. So hence, cold sweat panic.
He's losing everything that he loves about his job. He's the guy. He's the guy when all the presidential candidates on the Republican side go to Iowa to eat deep fried corn on the cob. He's the guy, and he loves it. He basks in that, and that's why people are afraid to go after him and confront him when he says ridiculous stuff like this, like defending Viktor Orban, the literal fascist Hungarian dictator who recently bought an entire newspaper that did an expose on him and then dismantled it and sold it off to someone who's a conglomerate affiliated with him. And then again, I just get so frustrated. I went to Catholic school, I understand the Christian ethic of love and everything, and I'm just so baffled how it doesn't apply in this situation. And I get so frustrated when Christians talk about how they love Judeo-Christianity. When it comes to Jews, they just don't like the Judeo part. If you put the Judeo part on its own, they get super mad.
Yeah, I had a rabbi tell me, they added the Judea part pretty recently. Yeah. It wasn't always like that. And it's a propaganda trick, that's all. On the go, don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.